Hi, I'm Claire, the founder of Sister Mountain, where I design knitting patterns, and I also teach people like you how to design knitting patterns too. Today we're going to be talking about something that tends to divide knitters into two different camps: those who love charts and those who find them completely bewildering. Now, I would put myself now firmly in the chart lover camp. However, it wasn't always the case. I grew up knitting from written instructions only. I didn't use charts. I found them confusing, I found them intimidating, and there was no chance you were going to get me using a chart. Slowly, I started attempting to use them more and more, and now I can't be without them. I love them. But that's why I believe when you are designing a knitting pattern that you should provide both charts and written instructions, because you never know who is going to be knitting from your pattern. You never know their preferences or their kind of learning style, reading style, that kind of thing. So to offer both just means that you're going to be catering to everyone. Providing both options is relatively low effort on your side, but it makes a world of difference to the knitter. So with that in mind, today I'm going to be walking you through various options that you have as a knitting pattern designer when it comes to charts, ranging from completely free chart makers through to more premium options. So before we get into the various digital chart makers that are available to you as a knitting pattern designer, I first want to kind of explain why you don't want to go down the hand-drawn chart route. So hand-drawn charts are very useful in the early stages of the design process. So for your own use, drawing out a chart for a potential stitch pattern is completely fine. You're the one who will be using it. It's very quick and easy to kind of sketch out on graph paper. So I don't want to deter you from using that option in that situation. But when you get into using charts for like knitting pattern purposes, and you're trying to create a chart that people can knit from, that's where I would say don't go down the hand-drawn route. If you make mistakes in your chart or you need to make adjustments, you have to redraw the whole thing. It's not easy to edit. Generally, charts are not as uniform when they're hand-drawn, they're not as accurate, and just generally they look less professional. So like I said, hand-drawn charts are perfectly fine for personal use, but if you are designing something that will be in a knitting pattern, go down the digital chart route, and it's so easy. I'm going to show you some ways that you can do that now. There are several different options out there today for knitting pattern designers, and I've worked with various tools myself. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through your options, ranging from a very kind of basic tool that you can use that you probably already have, through to more robust kind of software. Whether you're looking for something, free, or you're willing to invest a little bit of money into it, there is something here for you. All right, so let's dive into Stitch Fiddle and take a look at what you can do with the free version. As you can see, the interface is pretty user-friendly, even for beginners. You have your grid here where you can add your stitches, and there's a selection of basic symbols that you can use to represent different stitches over here. It's all web-based, so there's no need to download anything. You just hop on your browser and you are good to go. The free version of Stitch Fiddle is a great starting point, especially if you're new to chart making. However, if you are looking for more advanced features, they offer a premium version that includes tools like larger grid sizes, more colour and symbol options, and advanced editing functions. The premium version costs around £4.50 a month at the moment, or £2.25 if you pay annually. Now, let's talk about some of those advanced features that you get with the premium version. For example, you can work with much larger grids, up to 1000 by 1000, which is really helpful for more complex designs. You can also use up to 200 unique colours or symbols in a single chart, which is great if you're working with something very intricate. Another useful feature is error checking, which helps ensure that your chart is accurate before you start knitting. Plus, there is a mirroring function that can save you a lot of time. Instead of manually flipping your stitches for symmetrical designs, the software can do it for you with just a few clicks. These features are especially handy if you're designing professionally or working on more detailed projects,
But even with the free version, you've got plenty to work with, especially if you're just starting out. Next, let's take a look at Chartminder. Like Stitch Fiddle, Chartminder offers both free and paid versions, but we're going to focus on what you can do with the free version. The free version of Chartminder is pretty versatile. You can create basic knitting charts with a variety of symbols, and the interface is straightforward, making it really easy to get started. The free version comes with all the essentials you need for chart making. However, if you want to unlock additional features, there's a pro version available. The Pro version is currently priced at £1.25 per month when paid annually, or £2 per month when paid quarterly. Let's explore some of the key features you get with the free version. One handy tool is the gauge calculator, which helps you understand how your stitch gauge will affect the final look of your project. Another feature is the Stitch View Preview, which allows you to see how your chart will appear when it's knitted up. This is really useful for visualizing colour work before you start knitting. And of course, you can create and save basic charts, making it a solid option if you're looking for a free tool that covers the basics. While the Pro option does offer more advanced options, the free version of Chartminder gives you plenty to work with, especially if you're just getting into knitting pattern design.
So another option that you have for creating knitting charts is just using a simple spreadsheet program like Excel or Google Sheets. And if you are someone who is very familiar with working in a spreadsheet, then I can imagine that this option might seem especially appealing. Now, while it's absolutely possible to design knitting charts using a spreadsheet like Excel or Google Sheets, it can be a little bit clunky. You're essentially trying to get a program to do something that it wasn't designed to do. And so it can be a bit more time consuming and a bit more error prone. But if you're willing to push through those initial problems that you might have, once you get used to it, it's kind of like anything else. You just kind of run with it and you can get great results. One thing that can really help is using knitting fonts that are specifically designed for this purpose. So essentially you download the font onto your computer and then you're able to input those symbols into your chart like you would with any other font. So that can really give you, it can really help with the symbol side of things. That being said, setting up the chart itself and kind of making adjustments to that can be a little bit tedious. Likewise, inputting all of those symbols in individually can be a bit tedious. And if you need to move stitches around, it's not as easy as dragging and dropping. It's just way more manual than a lot of the other tools. So while this method works for more simple patterns or, for experimenting, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this for very complex designs or for professional patterns. I know there are designers out there who still use Excel for this purpose, but I think if you are brand new to this, it's almost like an additional obstacle that you don't really need to put in your path. There are easier tools for you to get used to and use. So unless the idea really appeals to you, then I think one of the other chart makers would be a better fit for you. So now let's talk about my absolute favourite tool for making knitting charts, and that is Stitchmastery. I bought Stitchmastery years ago and I wouldn't be without it now. I have played around with the other tools, but for me, I'm very comfortable with Stitchmastery. It has everything I need and more. There are tons of different stitches. There are loads of different features that, to be honest, I've not even had the chance to explore fully yet.
One of the things I love about Stitchmastery is the sheer range of stitches it offers. You can find just about any stitch you might need, from basic knit and purl stitches to more complex techniques like cables, brioche, and even Estonian stitches. Another feature I find invaluable is the automatic generation of written instructions. So as you create your chart, Stitchmastery automatically generates the corresponding written instructions. This saves so much time, especially when you're providing both charts and written instructions in your pattern. One of my favourite features, though, has to be the ability to mirror symbols. This is particularly useful when you're working on designs that need to be symmetrical. Instead of manually flipping the stitches, you can chart out one side, select it, and then just flip it to create a mirrored version. Stitchmastery even adjusts the symbols automatically to match the flipped version. Now, I won't say that there isn't a bit of a learning curve when you start using Stitchmastery or any of these tools, but the good news is that they provide some really excellent tutorials on their website. When I was getting started, I found these tutorials incredibly helpful, especially the ones written by Kate Atherley.
So let's talk about value for money. Stitchmastery is not the cheapest tool out there. In fact, it comes with a cost of £70 as of recording to buy the software. But in my experience, it's kind of paid for itself, really. Like I said, I bought it years ago. It must have been 8 years ago, I would say. So I paid, it was actually cheaper even then. I paid that one fee, and then now I have the software and I can continue to use it, and there is no kind of recurring subscription there. So if you are someone who intends to use the software for a long time, you intend to produce patterns for a long time, it kind of makes sense to do the one-time payment if you're able to, because it's like you've got it and then you can use it forevermore. And like I said, the range of features that it has and what it can do for me more than justifies that initial cost that I had to pay. So you might now be wondering, which chart maker should I choose? And really the answer depends kind of where you are at in your design journey currently. So if you are right at the very beginning, you were just kind of dipping your toe into knitting pattern design, I would say go for something like Stitch Fiddle or Chartminder, because they, the free options of those will give you the opportunity to play with the tools, just kind of experiment and really familiarize yourself with how to make charts. And, there's no big financial investment there. You don't have much to lose in that regard. You can just really, feel confident in learning the ropes. On the other hand, if you are maybe a bit more advanced, or you are looking to design knitting patterns on a longer term basis, highly recommend Stitchmastery. It's got loads of features that will kind of serve you well, and that one-time fee kind of makes sense as opposed to buying into a subscription model. The cost feels like a lot up front, but in the long run it's a worthy investment. And if you are somewhere in between and you're familiar with spreadsheets, then maybe you want to play around with Google Sheets or Excel, because as long as you kind of know what you're doing, then it could be quite a flexible way of getting a high quality chart without having to pay any large fees. Of course, ultimately, the best chart maker out there is the one that you feel most comfortable with. So maybe give each one a try, see what clicks, and then just stick with it. So now that we have covered all of these different chart making tools, I would like to ask you, have you ever played around with making charts before? And if so, do you have a preferred chart maker or a preferred method of making charts? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And if you want to dive deeper into any of the tools that I've mentioned here today, I've linked a blog post all about this exact topic over on the Sister Mountain blog down in the description box, so be sure to check that out. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Just search Sister Mountain over there, or you can click on the links in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you don't miss an update. I will see you in my next video. Bye.